Think you know which way it's going to go? You should head on over to Sports Interaction. When the puck drops, Sports Interaction has you covered.
Live in play.
Live in play.
But pregame.
Pregame, live in play are one of their many prop bets. I wasn't ready.
On all major sports and prop bets. Wanna bet? SportsInteraction.com/STPN. 19 plus, please play responsibly. I'm keeping them on their toes. Shane Wright has finally been loaned to Coachella Valley, where he's going to play for 2 weeks. Now, Cam Sharon was tweeting about this, and I'm glad he was. We've talked about this years ago. I think Cam wrote things about it in the Leafs Nation. And the reason that they haven't sent Shane Wright to the league he should be in, which is the AHL, is because he's too young and would have to go back to the CHL and would have to stay there the rest of the year because...
What a bunch of nonsense.
The NHL and the CHL have an agreement where the CHL doesn't lose its star players. If they don't make the NHL, well, then they shouldn't be in the AHL. They should be in the CHL, which is bad for player development. By the way, if you're from Sweden or you're from Finland or you're from any other country, Germany, whatever, you can go to the AHL.
David Jiricek.
But because you were born in North America, no, you have to stay here.
It's not if you chose to play in the CHL. Like your Austin Matthews went overseas and he could have played in the AHL if he wanted to.
Yes.
So if you're a Canadian and you don't play in the CHL, you could go play in the AHL. But it'd be ridiculous if they built a league for players who are like not good enough or too good for the CHL, but not good enough for the NHL. It'd be crazy if there was a league in between there where they could develop.
So it's got nothing to do with...
it exists. It's the AHL.
It's got nothing to do with safety.
No.
Right? So, they made a special exception for OHL players and junior players to play in the AHL during the COVID season where the AHL was going and the junior leagues were not. Totally understand that. Makes sense. Cooler heads prevailed. It's got nothing to do with safety if a 18-year-old William Nylander can play in the AHL, if an 18-year-old David Jiricek can play in the AHL, and now he's already gotten called up to the Blue Jackets. Imagine that. He gets to play for the Blue Jackets because
he earned it.
Well, because he earned it, but also he was eligible to be called up.
Yeah. Yep.
An 18-year-old Nazem Kadri was called up to the Leafs from the OHL under emergency basis. Oh, so under certain circumstances, he can be recalled. Why can't he just be recalled normally? We need to reevaluate this complete and utter nonsense that is the CHL NHL agreement.
Well, and I think the reason that the deal was done that way was because the CHL was complaining that all their best players were leaving, which if you follow the CHL, that's how it works. Most players who are stars at 18 shouldn't be in the CHL anymore. And what would happen is if Shane Wright goes back to the CHL, and this is a problem, he's going to boot some other kid who's younger and who's using that time to develop. The whole point of the CHL is it's a developmental league. That's the point. So if people graduate from it, then the CHL's done its job. And the idea that somehow that the CHL will benefit with Shane, because what'll happen here, here's what's going to happen. Shane Wright is going to go to Coachella Valley for 2 weeks, and then he's going to get released to Team Canada.
Yep.
That's what's going to happen. So he's going to play a lot of hockey over the next month and a half, and that's fantastic. And then the Kraken have a choice to make when he comes back.
He still hasn't activated the first year on his ELC.
No, because
it's going to be 2023 by the time the Kraken have to make that decision. That's wrong. That's wrong.
And it also does it really benefit the CHL, this rule? Like in Shane Wright's case, they've just sat him, and then he's going to go to play for Hockey Canada. And then, I mean, if they send him back partway through the year, I guess, but it's not really a draw.
Here it is. So Cam Sharon saw that news, and he said, European first rounders can play in the AHL. Nobody is benefiting from this agreement. Someone responded, so can USHL/NCAA players. And Cam said, right. Basically, the only people benefiting from the CHL NHL agreement are players from other countries and the Hockey Canada executives that stand to receive bonuses if Wright leads Canada to gold at the World Juniors.
Oh.
It is corrupt nonsense.
That's what it is.
This agreement. Of course. It's absolute nonsense. Total bullshit. There's no... What is the purpose of, like, what is David Jiricek just like more mature?
No.
Like he can handle it?
It's Hockey Canada bonuses. I didn't even think about that. That's crazy.
Yeah, but it affects American players too.
Well, like, for sure. No, what I mean is that like regardless of that, it's what I'm saying is It's just another mark against Hockey Canada. How could you be okay with this if you're for the players?
Or a guy like Mitch Marner. The year the Leafs were gunning for last. You have to make a decision. Should he make the team or should he go back and play junior? There's no, well, you know what? We think he's good enough so we can put him in the minor. There's none of that.
And they ran the show. He won the MVP, every MVP you could win, and won every trophy.
All right.
It wasn't even fair.
It's ridiculous now for Shane Wright to play for Kingston. And Kingston would benefit because they get Shane Wright. And also, Shane Wright probably wouldn't ever play for Kingston. They would trade him. Because this is what always happens when you have the star player on the OHL team. They trade him for draft picks for kids who aren't even born yet.
And it's like 48 draft picks, too.
A 2048 first-round pick through 2054, and they'll get all that for Shane Wright. And then Kingston wants this because they have this weird, stupid agreement that's clearly corrupt.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, the last time Shane Wright played in the CHL for Kingston, he had 160 points in 121 OHL games. He shouldn't be playing in that league.
No. And here's how it works, right? So Seattle gets to benefit because this is definitely going to keep his next contract down, even if he just completely
even if they let this deal even if this deal doesn't slide.
Yeah. The Kingston Frontenacs either go for a championship or trade the guy, so they get to benefit from it. Which benefits the Canadian Hockey League. Hockey Canada gets to benefit from it because they're going to have a better chance at winning gold. And all parties involved, which are like several times Shane Wright's age, get to turn to him and go, "Shut up, kid, you're getting an NHL salary." Ignoring the fact that this, for his long-term development, is a catastrophe.
What if he goes back, he doesn't get an NHL salary, though?
No, if he but right now he does.
He's making tens of thousands of dollars a week, right?
Sure.
And listen,
Something
I'm not
like
asking
that.
anybody to feel sorry for him, but he goes from that. If Seattle sends him back, he's back to like $200 a week and a per diem.
And
is that how it works?
And he's still got, I believe
they don't pay you.
So his contract will slide because I don't think he's reached the 10 games to activate the first year in his ELC. So after all this bullshit, after having him for like 4 months, after having his rights in the National Hockey League for like 4 months, he's still going to have 3 years worth of ELC after this.
And a regular season's 180 days, right? 6 months, almost 6 months exactly.
Something like that.
Okay, so you got about 24 weeks, let's say. So you get 950,000 divided by 24 equals $39,000 a week. Okay,
cool, great. Most people sign up for
incredible.
That.
But you get about 30% of that times 0.3 equals $11,000. So he's made 11,000 times 6 because he's been in the NHL. He's made $71,000 in take-home pay. Oh my God, that's fantastic. Yeah. And then it's like, Shane.
But then there's tax and all that.
No, why I took the tax off too.
Okay, cool.
I said they make 0.3 or they make 30% of that total, right?
Yeah.
So that's taxes and agents and all that. So he's made that's fantastic money. But then he's got to go back to Kingston to make $200 a week.
Well, and then he's got to live the rest of his life. And like, if this doesn't pan out for him, people are going to call him a bust like it's his fault.
Right. At very least, here's my thing. I get mad about the pay stuff because if you're good enough to be among the top 700 players in the world, and maybe in Shane Wright's case, he's not. So, okay, put him in the AHL. Now you're in the top 1,100 players in the world. Should he not be paid market value for that? That's wrong. Holding somebody back and literally saying, no, we're going to artificially stop you from making the money that you're actually worth on the open market is wrong.
This agreement fucking sucks. Let's just call it what it is.
And it's different, right? Like the rest of us, we all work till we're 65 or whenever we can retire, right? Shane Wright's not going to get the chance to do that. You get so many years. That's it. Finite amount of time. So these guys have to make their money and get out.
The way this probably ends, because his talent is so huge, is he has a long career and retires with millions of dollars. That's not how it goes for everybody.
But it doesn't make that right.
No. What happens if
he misses out on $1? It's still
he
wrong.
blows out his knee. He blows out his knee in Kingston. He's never the same. Who covers that if he gets hurt in Kingston? I don't even know how that works.
I think the NHL team would have his contract insured, but I don't know how. I think he'd have to sit on LTIR.
Fuck the NHL team. What about him? That's what I'm saying.
No. What I mean is, I think he'd get paid the full ELC if he's never playing.
I hope
again.
so.
Right.
What was so you had Justin Davis on Agent Provocateur. You were both on that episode, weren't you?
No.
No. Oh, that was the all.
No, just there's an episode with
the all Q
myself, Adam, and Alan.
So you had Justin Davis on, former OHL player, former Washington Capitals draft pick.
Yeah.
And he told a story about getting injured in the States.
Yes, the concussion that he had, and I believe was he Sioux? He was playing for the Sioux, I believe.
Yeah, but it was in the States.
It was in the States, and they were trying to rush him to the Canadian border so that he wouldn't have to be in an American hospital, so they would have to pay for it. And it turns out the trainer, who actually had some medical background, most trainers in the OHL at that point didn't, made him go to he said to the guys at like the Sioux management, no, he needs to go to the hospital now. And it turns out it was a good thing he did, because he had blood on the brain, like he was bleeding.
Yeah.
And
it was a really bad concussion.
And then they sent the bill to his family.
Right.
And then his family said, we shouldn't have to pay this. And Alan's like, they shouldn't have to pay this. And they're like, oh, that's a mistake. I can't believe we did that. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, that's what Alan
$15,000.
said. Hey, he shouldn't have to pay this. So I bet Alan was really
He was really calm and cool about that, yeah.
Great episode. You should go back and listen to it. No, no one benefits from this deal, or certainly no 18-year-old Canadian children are benefiting from this deal. It's a bunch of bullshit. Get rid of it yesterday.
So Shane Wright, he's played 7 NHL games so far. He's been scratched for 11 of the 18 games that the Kraken have played. That's a ridiculous number. So the way this is gonna go for the next couple of weeks is Shane Wright goes down to AHL, and then after that, he has an option to come back and play. I believe they have one game versus Montreal, where they've been eyeing that on the schedule. Shane Wright might be able to suit up for that game if they want to do the revenge Shane Wright game.
Throw him to the Wolves.
Right.
Throw him to the fucking Wolves.
I saw that mentioned, and I was like, I don't think that happens. I think they probably just leave him scratched until the World Juniors. He does that 2 weeks in the World Juniors. Then in January, you have the option. So this decision, they've delayed it by 2.5 months here, which is, I think, very interesting and a good strategy, I guess, by the Kraken, because they're out of options. Like, he's not good enough to make the team right now, clearly.
Right.
So they're doing everything they can, to the credit of the Kraken. They're trying to get him actual games that they think he's going to benefit from. So kudos to them for doing that. And then January, when the World Juniors is over, they have to make a decision. If he plays 2 more games, ELC kicks in, or he goes to Kingston, where I was just reading, they're in the middle of the pack of the OHL stand, so they're going to trade him somewhere. So he's not going to play in Kingston, he's going to play somewhere else.
So to your point, where the Kraken do deserve credit is they're gaming the system. Yes. They found a loophole in this ridiculous agreement where it's unsafe. Ooh, it's unsafe for kids Shane Wright's age to play in the American Hockey League unless they're eligible for a conditioning loan, it's A-okay.
I don't think the unsafe thing is their main reason.
So what the fuck?
I think they like keeping, I think Hockey Canada would argue, and the NHL would argue, that keeping Canadian talent that's been developed in the CHL is important to grow the game. It's important to have these players who came in through our system to have their rights until this amount of time. That's the argument I think they would give instead of the unsafe one. But I don't agree with it. I think both are bullshit because they clearly don't make sense for the broader scheme of things. But yeah, so they've delayed this decision till mid-January, which I think is smart on their part, because now there's a path for Shane Wright. We'll see when he comes back from the World Juniors to see if he's NHL ready. Yeah. I doubt it. Like, he'll probably go play somewhere in the OHL, and it's going to be a waste of a year, kind of. But, that's where we're at.
At the end of his 3-year ELC, which I'm sure the Kraken will find a way to get extended to 2028, I hope he takes them for every penny.
Hopefully he puts up some numbers.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. Me too. I'm cheering for the kid. What the fuck?